I feel like learning to disagree with your best friend is hard enough, let alone learning to disagree with your best friend while making it funny. Comedians Mae Martin and Sabrina Jalise have figured out how to do it. Today on the podcast, you'll hear about Benefits with Friends, a spectacular look at how friendship should be. I'm Elamin Abdul-Mahmoud. This is Commotion. Mae Martin and Sabrina Jalise are best friends. And when I say best friends, I really mean it. I mean best friends. Like, Mae has got a tattoo of Sabrina's name on their body. That's how close they are. Mae and Sabrina are also comedians with, let's say, extremely different takes on a whole lot of stuff, from money to sex to culture. They're both Canadians living in LA, and they've got a new podcast. It's called Benefits with Friends. It just dropped yesterday on Audible Originals. Here's my conversation with them. Mae, Sabrina, welcome to Commotion. What's going on?
Thanks for
Finally,
having
we're
us.
in commotion.
Let's go.
So nice
Let's
to be
do
here.
this. Okay, I have so many questions about friendship because I think I'm bad at being a friend, like bad at like maintaining friendships, you know, and so I'm going to get some tips from you.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I feel like I need that. But before we do even that, can I just get like a through line of this friendship between the two of you? Maybe, Mae, you want to kick us off?
Okay, the year is 2002, probably, in
Great.
Toronto at Second City, and I was doing sketch comedy with two of my friends, and we knew, I was maybe 14, 15, and I knew that there was another teenager on the scene that everyone was talking about, Sabrina Jalise, and I was like, I will destroy her. I was so stressed that we both were going to be like competing for that title of the youngest person around. And then we did a show together, and it was like, oh shit, we really get along. And then
Aw.
became very, very close and had really similar vibes. Then we went, okay, bullet point. Then we go to Greece. We both get engaged on the same trip.
What?
To our girlfriends. Yeah.
Not
This
to
is
each other.
this is a big flash forward, though.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's a
Sounds
big,
like we met. We're 14 years old. We're engaged in Greece.
yeah. We basically just we've had parallel lives and lived in different cities, but now we're in the same city finally.
Sabrina,
And
you
do you mind if I just do a little flashback to what was happening for me?
Love a flashback.
The days before we met.
let's go.
I'm in Miss Grant's drama class, and Miss Grant hands me, I think it was the North York Post. There's an article about some young comedians, and I'm like, these losers. And I very much felt like this feud as well. And then I'm watching Mae perform with their sketchmates, and I am holding the straps of my backpack. And I am just like, every piece of the seething energy turns into just like, I'm enamored and addicted, and I've been drawn ever since.
That's a movie to me. You know, I don't know. Like, I feel like you have to write a movie about your friendship. Like this.
Okay,
Go
we went
ahead.
away.
We went to Ojai to write it.
We went away for the weekend. We were like, okay, we should write a movie
Recently?
about our friendship. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And we were like, okay, we got the weekend. We're going to write this movie. And then all we did was we were like, we should watch the movie Beaches for inspiration. Sabrina fell asleep 7 minutes into the movie. I just watched Bette Midler.
I blame Beaches for being old.
I would
Like,
say
if you were like, yeah,
no. Go
if
ahead.
you're like,
go
let's
ahead.
watch the new Mean Girls for inspiration, maybe we'd have a movie.
Right.
You could do a double header. I feel like you should start with Mean Girls to keep you awake, and then do Beaches. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
See, and you say you're not good at friendship.
I'm working
That's a
on
perfectly
it.
curated night.
I'm trying to be better at it. Okay, so early on in the first episode, you talk about why you wanted to make a show that celebrates friendship, and that's because of an absence.
Growing up, every song, movie, book, it was all about romantic relationships. I guess except like Winnie the Pooh. Or like,
Winnie the Pooh is classically the only artist that dares talk about friendship.
yeah, exactly. The only artist. Winnie the Pooh is the artist.
Mae and Sabrina, I have to tell you, it is a delight to like watch you guys laughing at yourself. Like that's the joy that I'm getting to witness right now. But also, I got to know, what does Winnie say about friendship? Like, what? Tell me about Winnie and friendship. Maybe Sabrina, you want to take this one?
No, Winnie would say, look, if you got a pot of honey,
I don't know why.
a pot of honey is better to share than to stare at it by yourself.
I know, as I'm thinking about it now, like, I don't know why my mind went to Winnie the Pooh, but really his main personality characteristic is he's greedy and only interested in money. And yeah, he's not the best friend. So
Yeah, but also you're right in the sense of like we just don't get a lot of friendship like friendship love dedicated media, and I'm not really sure why that is, because that's the stuff that makes up most of our lives. Like what are some of your favorite friendship movies? Would you say?
Oh, I love Bridesmaids. I love, and I love that because it's so true, that kind of pang of yearning and sadness that you get when you feel that your friend is moving on to a different stage of life and you're worried you're going to be left behind. And then I like the message of that movie is like you got to evolve as well and meet your friend where they're at. And there's so many.
For me, probably Titanic. If you look at it as if you look at it as like a love story between that mean lady and that corset. She loved it.
In a way,
but I do think we could reshape the world and kind of right size things if every person that wrote a love song about someone upon the breakup, government mandated, had to write a love song about the friends that pulled them back on their feet.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then I
don't mind if even in the lyrics they're like government mandated song.
Okay, we got to talk about this friendship, because at the core of your friendship, there's this beautiful fundamental ability to hard disagree. Like you guys are like, no, we are on opposite ends of this thing. For example, on the merits of monogamy versus polyamory.
Yeah, but your stance on monogamy, if I'm being honest, has sometimes got like a Westboro Baptist Church flavor to it, like the intensity. We got to dive into this subject.
Get your poly eyes off my wifey's thighs.
I swear to God, I'm not trying to marry your wife.
I'm never going to let you kiss my wife.
And I wouldn't tell you if I did.
Don't even look at her.
Sabrina. Oh man, Sabrina, talk to me about that. Talk to me about this.
I just don't.
Go ahead.
It's like a young thing. Everyone's like, you just be love, sexy with whoever, and it's like, yeah, if you want to lose your girlfriend. I mean, I've seen. Sure, look, gay men, they're doing it. Got it. I'm not judging.
God, I can't believe.
No, but I'm saying I have been to Dinah Shore and I've seen the swallow of the butch woman that's looking at her like hot femme girlfriend hooking up with someone, being like, I'm so glad we did this.
May is losing it right now.
I'm losing my mind because I truly thought by the end of that episode we'd reach like some evolution, and Sabrina is just instantly triggered back to immediately projecting this dynamic of this femme woman, and that this like it's so more about you and your feelings.
Please remind me where I got to. It's been a long time.
Because I feel like you got to a place where you at the very least acknowledged that, for instance, our guest on the episode, Jack, who's in a poly relationship, you were like, that does sound healthy and they seem happy, and I acknowledge that it does work for some people. That's a straight guy. Oh my God. Well, this is what the podcast is like. Only that episode.
I was gonna say, like, is most of the podcast just you, May, burying your face in your hands? Because like that is, I feel like the primary reaction I've gotten from you so far as Sabrina just goes off.
No, in general, I feel like I get made fun of a lot as well, but it was funny with this particular episode where it was at first we were like kind of playing into this like, oh, Sabrina's the more traditional one, and I'm this like, and then as we went on, it was like, oh no, we do fundamentally have like we're not really reaching an accord here, but I think by the end we did, and it was you can see every emotion on Sabrina's face, and even if right now, like
because I do recognize I am remembering where I got to, which was that I felt kind of like a loser. I did feel like a loser. I felt like I was like you're
old fashioned.
Yeah, like I was like an old closeted lesbian that's like, sure, you could hook up with your best friend, but I married Mike.
I feel like by the end of the episode you got to a place where you were, oh, she's leaving.
She's done with this. She's like, I'm out of here.
Actually, speaking of dynamic, I'm doing a very May thing, which is my computer is draining.
Oh shit!
But I can hear you. But
it's about to die right now.
It's
Okay.
I'm at like a bit of a 4% situation.
Goodbye, Sabrina.
But no, I have
Drifting
I have
away
the,
into the.
guys.
She's
don't
dead.
Worry.
She's dead.
Guys, don't worry. I've got everything I need. May, take it away.
I'll take it away.
Take it away,
I
May.
feel- okay, the thing that we got to by the end, I think it was just like any therapy session where you want to be like, okay, am I responding to this subject authentically in the moment or with some historical emotional trigger that I don't need to attach to it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you want to be able to engage intellectually with the idea without bringing your own like kind of shit to it. You know what I mean?
But what's crazy about that is that, like, I hear you when you say that, and I am thinking about myself in therapy. You guys are doing this while also laughing, while also recording it for an audience, right? Like, there's a sense of you're also constructing a notion of you're not performing a friendship, but you know that it's going to be shared in front of people in a way. And so, is it always funny when you guys disagree? Is it sometimes like, I don't know about this?
No, it's not.
I'm a little
it's not
surly
always
about
funny.
it. Okay.
I guess in a way we run so others can walk. But no, we definitely there were times in the record where it felt that, like, the tension was thick and there. But
And then
I
we would
also
go
think
and we would hug out. We would always hug after, or I would sit on Sabrina's lap like a baby. But I
Yeah.
think
Sort-
also
sort of
that's
suckling on my earlobe.
yeah. I think what I liked about doing this was that you can't really, when someone knows you so well, you can't really perform or be inauthentic because they're going to call you on it. So I think you do see a pretty vulnerable version of both of us. Like, you know what I mean? I
Like,
think
you're able to like disappear the artifice because you're like, we're just here with each other doing this thing.
Yeah. That's why podcasts are, I think that's why people like them and feel so connected to these podcast hosts, because you're like, they're just in your ears and they're just sitting in a quiet room somewhere. And yeah, although we have a very funny producer called Zoe who was in the booth, and trying to make her laugh was also a goal.
Well, I was going to say, like, comedians plus at least one audience member in the room equals like at least trying to get some laughs out of this other person. Hey, I got to ask you about the pieces of media maybe that you disagree on. So, like, let's say, is there a movie that you guys were like, you know what? We will watch it together. We're never going to agree on this thing.
I think we disagree on a lot of media because I actually, well, our core influences and references are in line for sure. But my dad's British and I lived in England for so long, and there's definitely like a particular strand of kind of British absurd comedy that Sabrina has no patience for, I think.
I gotta say, Sabrina, there is something to be said about what May just said, about the idea that, you know, sometimes your sensibilities do meet in a certain place. But I gotta ask you if there's certain movies or certain shows where you're like, you know what? This is a thing where we just cannot agree on this. May is on this planet and I'm on an entirely separate planet.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the Beatles.
Okay, go on.
You know when your friend likes something so much that just the preface is just, it's like, I'm not going to like it that much, so I might as well go hard the other way. So May was basically, because I grew up with immigrant parents who were like, I don't know, they thought music was gay, I guess. They were like, it's too much.
So the Beatles are just like, you're like, I'm out on the Beatles. The entire
I think
discography.
May introduced me to the Beatles. May introduced me to the Beatles, but they introduced me to the Beatles in this way that was like, you're just going to love it, dude. Like, all the lyrics are, I don't know what you said, but you were just so horny for it. And I probably was also psychotically, like, weirdly, like, jealous of the Beatles or something. like I was like, this is my new best friend, and who are these men?
May's like, these are my best friends, Paul and John, and then you're new to this dynamic.
And I was like, oh, you like their art more than my 6-month-old stand-up about my dad picking me up from school? And maybe there's an ancestral wound there where because of your Britishness, my control over you has been my effort to colonize you.
Yeah.
Is that going well, May, would you say? Or no? I don't know. What's
yes,
your view on this?
absolutely. No, that's going very well. Yeah. I think Sabrina has been playing a long game with me and always knew that she would lure me to LA. She would make sure I'm in a monogamous relationship, and she would get us like, yeah.
It's all happening.
My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud, and this is Commotion. On today's podcast, Mae Martin and Sabrina Jalise, their new show is called Benefits with Friends. It just came out on Audible Originals. Okay, so I like what you both have said about the fact that sometimes you just got to have these conversations without artifice, like sort of like in the way where you show up to these conversations and you can tell whether your friend is present and in the moment or not. You want everyone to have these conversations with their friends. I think that's a really big ask. Can I just ask why? Like, why is it important for you that people are able to show up in friendships entirely themselves? Maybe I'll start with you, Mae.
Oh, well, my instinct is to get really earnest here. Maybe I'll do it.
Please do.
I feel like, yeah, particularly aside from Sabrina and a couple other people, like for the majority of my life, most of my best friends have been straight men. And those are my guys, and I do see them struggling to connect in that way sometimes with each other. I mean, I always connect in that way with them, but I always want them to be. I think men's mental health is super important, and I think men should talk. And then also I think in today's world, sometimes you rely so much on your partner and they need to be everything to you and be your best friend and your therapist and your, sexual partner and all these things. And really one person, that's a big ask. And so I think the more you can like delineate that stuff and lean on your friends and get other opinions, I think, yeah.
I love that answer.
Good.
I love that you went earnest with it. Sabrina, what's your take on this?
That is like the goody jewels of life, is when you feel a little bit nervous or shy about sharing something about you that makes you feel sort of lonely, and you realize in sharing it, even if your friend doesn't connect in the exact same way, in sharing the things that make us feel lonely, it's like this magic, it's like a magic powder on top of it that turns it into connection and makes these things that could feel embarrassing into these empowering stories that make us who we are. In one of the episodes, we were talking about parenting and fertility, and for me, I suffered a miscarriage at 3.5 months a couple of years ago, and in talking about it on the podcast with Mae, with my friends, and just being open about this thing that I was going through that historically people are so quiet about, it really helped me, and to connect with other people that had the same experience. I feel like that's a little bit what the power of friendship is like being able to take out these little tchotchkes in your sadness toolbox and polish them up, and they actually are just like the pieces and stories that make you you.
What?
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. As soon as you're in a romantic relationship with someone, all of I mean, ideally this is not the case, but I think it's hard to resist this feeling like all of their flaws are also affecting your life. And so it's hard to be totally subjective and like give a totally unbiased opinion. But with friends, we have this amazing like ability to really accept them as whole flawed people and not react emotionally. And that, I don't know. So I think they're super helpful relationships. And like Sabrina was saying, like, that's also the great power of comedy and things like that, that the more specific and shameful you get, then the more universal those things end up being. And you're like, oh, everybody feels this way. And
I just to close this out, that's why I said the thing that I said earlier about not being sure whether I'm good at friendships, which is to say, I think I've sort of fallen a lot into this pattern of kind of showing up and I'm a little bit like I'm half there, which is to say I'm doing the thing where I update people on what's happening in my life, but I'm not sure that I'm dipping into what you just called, Sabrina, the toolbox of sadness that you have, which is to say being able to actually like open that and share that with the people that you love. And that is a thing that we maybe take for granted a lot, and a thing that if really atrophies if you don't practice it and keep practicing it over and over. And so I appreciate you guys practicing it on your show and then bringing it to the show right here. Mae Martin, Sabrina Jalise, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the earnestness. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, you guys. Mae Martin and Sabrina Jalise are comedians and best friends. Their brand new podcast is called Benefits with Friends. It's available right now through Audible Originals. I'm Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. This is Commotion. Hey, did you pick up a creative hobby in the last few years? Like maybe it was knitting or baking, or maybe it was pottery. Well, there's a new show now that is dedicated to putting the best amateur potters across Canada to the test. They get to compete against each other, and it's called The Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown. It premieres today on CBC. So I called up ceramic sculptor Susanna Montague to ask her if pottery is having a moment right now. Here's what she had to say.
It's everywhere. I think everyone I know, everyone on the planet has tried clay at this point, which is great because when I first got into it, no one really understood what the potential of it could be. And it was more in the craft realm, so kept in functional pottery, but now it's sculpture and used on all sorts of things.
I've been delighted to see the friends of mine who said, you know what, I'm going to take a pottery class, and then come back and say it was so satisfying. You really get lost in the work. It's a way to sort of get out of your daily stresses, but also get a chance to make something at the end of it. And you see some of that dynamic at play in this new show. Listen, we've both seen the first episode. Without getting any spoilers, what did you think of the show?
I really enjoyed it. My heart was in my mouth watching everyone trying to complete their projects in the time.
And what did you make of the level of talent from amateur potters that are cast this season?
It was full spectrum. There was some people who weren't quite strong in wheel throwing, but then they made up in hand building. So some people were good in both areas, and some people had quieter, more subtle, refined work. Other people had more elaborate, bright colored, expressive. Yeah. It was really nicely spread out.
So we've seen interesting competition shows like Blown Away from Netflix, where artists go head-to-head glass blowing. And also in the Netherlands, there's a show called The New Vermeer, and it challenges artists to recreate works by the painter. What is it, do you think, about pottery that lends itself to a competition show like this one?
I think that I'm thinking back to when I was in art school doing ceramic, and I noticed that there was competition in who could throw the biggest pot or who could find the most vibrant color, the sickest green, like bile green or something. And we'd all mess around in the glaze lab and just try and outdo one another. It was quite competitive in there. But we were all learning off each other and pretty generous sharing information. And that's what this show does. It's allowing us in to see what people are doing as they're making and watching them learn as they're working, which isn't something you usually get to do with ceramic unless you throw yourself in the studio.
So listen, each week contestants are asked to complete 2 tasks, as you mentioned. So one big project is called a main make, and then there are shorter challenges that are either time-based or skill testing. For the main makes, the potters are only given 6 or 7 hours to get their project kiln ready. Then they only have about 3 hours to decorate their pieces. You're an artist. In terms of watching this, how challenging is this competition, do you think, in terms of these time frames that they're given?
I think it's definitely challenging, but the more you know about clay, the more you can pull off. So you can get it to dry faster. You can build with thinner walls. You can put holes in it to allow the air flow through to get it to dry faster. It's sort of learning as you go and making mistakes as you go. That'll teach you what you can get away with in short time frames. And I saw the artists really pulling off some amazing feats. Like my heart was in my mouth watching some of them go. I couldn't believe what they were doing with the short amount of time.
Let's hear a little bit of the show.
As our kiln expert, Vin will supervise the most perilous part of pottery, the firing process.
What are you feeling in this moment?
Honestly, that drying room is a house of horrors. I don't know what will happen. It's the unknown. What's scarier than the unknown?
That's so true.
So that was the host, Jennifer Robertson. She's talking to one of the contestants. She's talking to Kiefer as he waits for his piece to dry during the first main make. Susanna, the joke that people make often about the Great British Bake Off is that there's no real villain on the show. The villain on the show isn't a person. It's actually the temperature inside the tent, because that's the thing that can make everything, kind of go sideways. Who or maybe what structural thing do you think is the villain on this show?
I think gravity, working against gravity is definitely something. If you build thicker walls to get your piece taller or bigger, it's more likely to explode. It takes longer to dry. Or, and also the time thing, working within the time frame of the show and trying to get things done in 7 hours. I don't know. That's so intense.
I have to say that I agree with you in terms of just having your heart in your mouth. Like I was like, how can we create tension in a show that is about pottery? And then kind of right away when you start watching, you're thinking, actually, there's quite a bit that could go wrong for these people. And by the end of the first episode, it's clear that the contestants have developed some real deep friendships. There are tears from the group as the first person gets sent home. And they've only known each other, at that point for like a week. Did that social sort of community aspect of the show surprise you in any way?
Not at all. My favorite department in art school was the ceramic, because people were so kind and empathetic to each other, like really genuine, kind people. Yeah, sensitive people.
Aww.
And that's sort of what brought us all together.
There's a lot of talk about pottery techniques, and tools and materials throughout the series. But do you imagine that the show is going to make more people want to try pottery? Like, did it do a good enough job of making pottery seem accessible to somebody who's never tried it ever before?
I feel absolutely, and I'm so glad about that. I really believe in bringing clay to people. I've come across a ton of research that when we're doing things with our hands, whether it's clay or carpentry, gardening, engine repair, there's something called the effort-driven reward cycle. And it's in our brain. It literally, our hands trigger happy chemicals, and it's being released in our brain when we're using our hands. So I love that people are seeing their way into a studio. And when we were trained in school, we were basically taught all the things that could go wrong. So we were absolutely terrified. But this show brings all the potential of what you could do.
I have to say, watching the show, I'm not any less terrified to try it, but I certainly am more interested in trying it. I'm a bit more interested in finding out how I can try to avoid those mistakes. And I say this as someone who's literally never attempted pottery ever before. What are some of the things that you're hoping to see the show maybe cover or incorporate about the craft?
I would like to see more showing the tools that we can use, like slab roller, extruder, and that sort of ignites something in your brain of potential things you can use to build different like sculptures or functional work.
Yeah.
And then learning about the different glazes and how they work would be interesting to a lot of people, because a lot of people can build, but they're not sure. They get a little like standoffish about what glazes they can use, what the potential of them are.
Susanna, without spoiling anything, really, let's just be honest here. Is there a potter that you're already rooting for?
Ooh. No, I like them all. I thought not yet. I don't have one person I'm rooting for.
Honestly, that's good in a way, because what I really enjoy is watching it and being excited about everybody, being excited about for anyone to sort of keep progressing in this competition. So that's lovely. Susanna, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Susanna Montague is a ceramic sculptor. She joined me from Bowen Island, Vancouver. The Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown is out today on CBC and CBC Gem. And also next week, by the way, on Q with Tom Power, my pal Tom is going to be talking to Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is one of the guest judges and an executive producer on the show.
Your face. Refugee, logging off till I get respect. Refugee, logging off till I get my respect.
That is a friend of the show. That is Cadence Weapon with his new song, Press Eject. And that is it for the podcast today. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the show anytime you like, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, find us on Instagram. We are at Commotion CBC. My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. We're going to be back tomorrow. See you then.
Press eject.